Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Wilson Jr., and this is the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast, the music podcast on where I interview singers and musicians from genres of black music: gospel, jazz, blues, old school classic soul, old school hip hop, today's hip hop and R&B, Caribbean, Latin, Afrobeat, Afro-Latina, blue-eyed soul, disco, go-go, line dances, and the Lost 45s. So come with me as I take you on to a trip to the destination genre of black music right now on the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Legal Shield is a proud sponsor of the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Have you been involved in any types of accidents? Have you been a victim of identity theft? Have you been a victim of a computer fraud scam? Have you been in disputes with your tenants or landlords? If your loved one dies and they didn't write up a will for you or for your family, or you and your spouse are filing for divorce, or if you need help by opening up your small business, give Legal Shield a try. Visit their website at LegalShield.com and tell them you heard it here on the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Do it today. You'll be glad you did. I'm Sam Wilson Jr., creator and host of the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Now, before I bring up my special guest, I have good news to share with you. I have a new website, and you can look for it at the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast.com. That's right, folks. I have a new website called the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast.com. If you have a computer, laptop, notebook, or if you have a desktop computer and it has either MSN or AOL, make sure you type in the name of my podcast website, the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast.com. And if you have Google on your smartphone, make sure you type in the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast.com. That's where you find all of my news blogs, or whatever you want to call it. That's where I tell you what's going to be on the next episode for the entire month. So please check out my website and please pass it on. Make sure you check out my website, the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast.com. That's the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast.com. In the meantime, enjoy today's episode and thank you for your support. Welcome to the season finale of the Black Soul Music Experience. I'm Sam Wilson Jr. as we close out Black Music Month with tributes, honoring our favorite musicians that have passed away during the 2025-26 season. And let me tell you, these scripts are very long. It's over 35 pages. We have lost a lot of musicians back to back during the 25-26 season. So, without further ado, we're just going to let Faith take this role. So I'm very delighted to be with you as I bring you the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast season finale on tributes. So let's start with one of our favorite singers that had some hits but didn't get any recognition. And we start off with the late Carl Carlton. Carl Carlton was born in Detroit, Michigan on May 21st, 1952. He began his career in the mid-1960s as Little Carl Carlton. It was a marketing ploy to capitalize on some vocal similarities to Stevie Wonder, who recorded under the name Little Stevie Wonder. And that was back in the 1960s. Now, Carl's first recording was under Forlando Records, for which he recorded for some minor local hits, including So What and Don't You Need a Boy Like Me. In 1968, he was signed to the Backbeat record label. Shortly after signing with the label, he was relocated to Houston, Texas, to be closer to his new label, and his first single, Competition, Ain't Nothing, became a huge hit on the UK Northern Soul scene. After its release on the UK Action Release Records label, in January 1971, he had a hit called I Can Feel It, which went to number 47 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts for 3 weeks. Don Robbie's Backbeat label was sold to ABC Records in 1972. Carl Carlton's major success came true with a remake of Robert Knight's Everlasting Love from his LP entitled Everlasting Love, released on the ABC label. Both album and single were released back in July of 1974. The song went to number 6 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 1 on, yes, Soul Singles charts, both of them back in November 1974. It was Carl's only top 10 hit on the Hot 100 Pop Singles charts. In 1976, Carl became embroiled in a royalty dispute with ABC Records that caused him to stop recording for some time. He signed with Mercury Records in 1977, releasing You, Something's Wrong. He was unable to land a new recording contract until Leon Haywood helped him sign a new deal with 20th Century Fox Records with that song, She's a Bad Mama Jamma. And that became a major hit back in the summer of 1981. And that song went gold and it went to number 22 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop and number 2 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. The song was played on Music Radio 77 WABC AM in New York City, and it hit number 3 at the end of September 1981. His self-titled LP, Carl Carlton, went to number 34 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 3 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. The song was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best R&B Vocal Performance Male at the 1982 24th Annual Grammy Awards. The song has later been used in movie soundtracks and sampled by today's hip hop and R&B artists. Now, he had some other hits in the mid 80s, but less popular. In 2003, he appeared in a music special called Rhythm, Love, and Soul, aired on PBS. On August 1st, 2010, he released his first gospel single called God is Good. The song was nominated for a Detroit Music Award in the Outstanding Gospel Christian Vocals category. Sadly, Carl Carlton suffered from a stroke in 2019. He died on December 12, 2025, at the age of 73. He leaves behind a wife and 3 sons. The next artist I'm about to bring you is the lead singer of the brother group Tavares, and his name is Antoine Lee Tavares, better known as Chubby. Now, Chubby was the one who wore glasses. That's the lead singer of Tavares. He was the third middle brother of 5 brothers coming out of New Bedford, Massachusetts. He sung all of the hits except for Free Ride and A Penny for Your Thoughts. The debut single called Check It Out, which was released on the single on the Capitol label back in the fall of 1973. And it went to number 35 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 5 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. The song was later added to their debut LP called Check It Out, and it was released back in January 1974. And the LP went to 160 on Billboard's Top LPs charts and number 20 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. The next LP was called Hardcore Poetry, released back in September of 1974. It had three hits, including Too Late, which went to number 59 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, and number 10 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. And it was followed, their follow up hit, the remake of She's Gone, which was first recorded by the late Lou Rawls. It went to number 50 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 1 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts on December 24th, 1974, for 1 week. Their next follow up song was Remember What I Told You to Forget. It went to number 25 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 4 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. The LP went to number 121 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 11 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. The next LP was called In the City, which was released in July 1975. Their song It Only Takes a Minute went to number 10 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 1 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts on September 20th, 1975, for 1 week, and number 2 on Billboard's Disco Singles charts. The LP went to number 26 on Billboard's Pop LPs charts and number 8 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. The next LP was called Sky High. The LP released back in May 1976. The song Heaven Must Be Missing an Angel was released in June of 1976, and it went to number 15 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 3 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts, number 18 on Billboard's Adult Contemporary Singles charts, and number 1 on Billboard's Disco Singles charts on July 24th, 1976, for 1 week. The song went gold and it sold over 1,000 copies in print. And it was used in the 2000 movie version of Charlie's Angels. That's the movie version that starred Drew Barrymore, Cameron Diaz, and Lucy Liu. And Bill Murray played the role of Mr. Bosley. And of course, the late John Forsythe, once again playing the voice of Charlie. Their follow up song, Don't Take Away the Music, released back in October 1976. The song went to number 34 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 14 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts, and number 1 on Billboard's Disco Singles charts on July 31st, 1976, for 1 week. The LP went to number 24 on Billboard's Pop LPs charts and number 20 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. The next album was called Love Storm, which was released back in March 1977. The song Who Done It was released back in March 1977. The song went to number 22 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 31 on Billboard's Adult Contemporary Singles charts, and number 1 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts on May 21st, 1977, for 1 week. And their follow-up was a remake of Jesse Belvin's Good Night, My Love. The song went to number 14 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. The LP went to number 59 on Billboard's Pop LPs charts and number 15 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. Their next single was More Than a Woman from the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack and movie, which was released on December 12th, 1977. The song went to number 32 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 36 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. Both versions Tavares and the Bee Gees were both in the movie of Saturday Night Fever. And the song from Tavares was added to their next LP called Future Bound, released in April 1978. And the LP went to 115 on Billboard's Pop LPs charts and number 55 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. Their song Never Have a Love Like This Before, released in October 1978. The song went to number 5 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. And that song was later added to their LP entitled Madame Butterfly, released back in January 1979. And the LP went to 92 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 13 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. Their other LPs, what they had, which includes Supercharge and Love Uprising, both of them released in 1980, and Love Line, which was released in 1981. In 1982, Chubby and his brothers switched over to RCA Records for their new LP entitled New Directions, which was released back in November of 1982, which they had the song called A Penny for Your Thoughts. Now, Chubby didn't sing that track. It was just Pooch and Tiny. And the song went to number 33 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 16 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts. The LP went to number 137 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 30 on Billboard's R&B Black Albums charts. The song was nominated for a Grammy Award for Best R&B Performance by Duo or Group at the 1983 Grammy Awards. Although they were no longer on any major record label, they were still performing, including specials on PBS and at other concert events. Sadly, Chubby died on November 29th, 2025, at the age of 81. Another legend that had passed away was part of the legendary group The Whispers, and his name was Walter Scott. And yes, Walter and Scotty were twins. Now, Walter Scott was born in Fort Worth, Texas, along with his brother Scotty, both born on September 23rd, 1943. And they were the founders of the group called The Whispers. When they moved to Los Angeles, California, and later had other members to join, which includes Nick Caldwell, Marcus Houston, Gordy Harmon, and later Lavelle Degree. Both Walter and Scotty were lead singers, and although they didn't get any hits in the late 60s, the group got some hits, including I Was Only Meant to Wet My Feet, Seems Like I Gotta Do Wrong, Bingo, A Father for My Children, What More Can a Girl Ask For, One for the Money, Living Together in Sin, I'm Gonna Make You My Wife, Let's Go All the Way, Olivia Lost and Turned Out, and their song, A Song for Donnie, which was in tribute to the late Donnie Hathaway. By the end of the 70s, the Whispers was going to part ways, but on the group self-titled LP, The Whispers, which was released back in November 1979, songwriters Leon Silvers III of the Silvers and William Shelby wrote a song called And the Beat Goes On. The song was a huge smash, and it went to number 19 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 1 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts on March 1st, 1980, for 5 weeks. And it also went to number 1 on Billboard's disco singles charts on February 23rd, 1980, for 2 weeks. The song went gold and it sold over 1,000 copies in print. Their follow up song, Lady, went to number 28 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 40 on Billboard's Adult Contemporary Singles charts, and number 3 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. The album went to number 6 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 1 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. The album went platinum and it sold over 1 million copies in print. Their next LP was called Imagination, released back on November 30th, 1980. Their song It's a Love Thing, released in January 1981, and the song went to number 28 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 2 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts. And it also went to number 4 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts. Their follow up, I Can Make It Better for You, it went to number 105 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 40 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts, and number 4 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts. The LP went to number 23 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 3 on Billboard's R&B Black Albums charts. The next LP was called Love Is Where You Find It. It was released back in December 1981, and their song In the Raw was released on January 22nd, 1982, and the song went both to number 8 on Billboard's R&B Black and Dance Singles charts. Their follow-up song, Emergency, was released on April 6, 1982, and it went to number 22 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts. And their song, Love Is Where You Find It, which was there also. Now, another song that wasn't a hit, but it was well requested on many Black radio stations. And the name of the song was called Say Yes. And it was the best airplay on Black radio, especially on some of the Quiet Storm formats that hit on Black radio. The LP went to number 35 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 1 on Billboard's Black Albums charts. The LP went gold and it sold over 1,000 copies in print. The next LP was called Love for Love. It was released on March 31st, 1983. The song Keep On Loving Me was released back in May 1983, and the song went to number 4 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts and number 18 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts. Their follow-up, Tonight, went to number 84 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 18 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts, and number 4 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts. And the song, this time, that went to number 32 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts. The LP went to number 37 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 2 on Billboard's R&B Black Albums charts. The next LP was called So Good, which was released on July 26, 1984. Their song, called Contagious, went to number 10 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts, and Some Kind of Lover went to number 17 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts. The LP went to number 88 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 8 on Billboard's R&B Black Albums charts. In the summer of 1987, the Whispers has struck gold again with the new LP entitled Just Gets Better with Time. The LP was released on April 9th, 1987. This time they had various producers, including Leon Silvers III, L.A. and Babyface, and Gary Taylor. The song Rocksteady released on June 13th, 1987, and the song went to number 7 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 49 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts, and it went to number 1 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts on June 13th, 1987 for 1 week. Their follow-up, Just Get Better with Time, went to number 12 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts. And their ballad, In the Mood, went to number 16 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts. The LP went to number 22 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 3 on Billboard's R&B Black Albums charts. The LP went platinum and it sold over 1 million copies in print. Their next LP was entitled More of the Night, and it was released on February 6, 1990. Their love song Is It Good to You went to number 7 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts. And their follow-up I Want to Be the One for You that went to number 58 on Billboard's Black Singles charts. The LP went to number 83 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 8 on Billboard's R&B Black Albums charts. The LP went gold and it sold over 1,000 copies in print. The Whispers had made some more albums in the later 90s, but failed to crack the top 10. And yes, other members were deceased, including Marcus Houston, Gordy Harmon, and Nicholas Caldwell. Scotty and Lavelle are the last 2 surviving members of the Whispers, and Walter Scott died on June 25th, 2025, at the age of 82. The next artist I'm about to bring you is Mr. Leslie Wilson. And no, we are not related. And he was the lead singer of The New Birth. And yes, he was born in Muskegon, Michigan, which is the suburb outside of Detroit, Michigan. He and his late brother, Melvin, joined The New Birth, which was created and founded by former Motown producers Harvey Fuqua and Vernon Bullock back in 1971. It combined several acts, including the Nightlighters and the Now Sound. Now, when I first heard this guy's voice of Leslie, I was thinking about that guy from Sesame Street, the Leighton Northern Jay Calloway. But they're not related. Now, as I was saying, Leslie's voice quickly became the band's signature. He turned The New Birth into a force in soul and funk music. The New Birth is best remembered for doing its cover songs, including Perry Como's version, It's Impossible, from the second LP entitled Ain't No Big Thing, but It's Growing. And it was released on the RCA label back in 1971. In 1972, the group was reorganized and it became a 17-piece ensemble and cracked the top 10 on Billboard's soul singles charts with a remake of Bobby Womack's I Can Understand It from their 4th LP entitled Birthday. Now you see the album cover is all black and just crack an egg. That's the photo album cover looks like. The song went to number 35 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 4 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts back in January 1973. Their 4th LP, Birthday, went to number 31 on Billboard's Pop LPs charts and number 1 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. The LP was released back in December 12th, 1972. Their 5th LP was entitled It's Been a Long Time, and it was released back in October 1973. It had two original songs, including I Wash My Hands of the Whole Damn Deal, Part 1. The song went to number 88 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 46 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts in January 1974. And their other song, It's Been a Long Time, went to number 66 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 9 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts in February 1974. Now, the song It's Been a Long Time was later sampled by today's hip hop and R&B group called Something for the People, featuring the voice of Trina and Tamara. And their 1997 song was called My Love Is a Shh. Another song was a remake of Skylark's Wildflower back in March 1974. It went to number 45 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 17 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. The LP went to number 50 on Billboard's Pop LPs charts and number 7 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. The next LP was entitled Coming from All Ends. The LP went to number 56 on Billboard's Top LPs charts and number 20 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. And they had no hits. In January 1975, they switched over to Buddha Records, and they also split from Harvey Fuqua and Vernon Bullock. They had with new producers, and they had a new LP called Blind Baby. And sadly, the group was downsized to 12 members. Their new song was a remake of Jerry Butler's Dream Merchant, and it went to number 36 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 1 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts on August 16th, 1975 for 1 week. The album Blind Baby went to number 57 on Billboard's Pop LPs charts and number 17 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. Sadly, this had been their only number 1 hit and their last. And there was a last of their top 10 hit. In 1977, Leslie and Melvin left the group over money contract disputes and went their separate ways to different groups. Now, their last appearance, they reunited and they appeared on the late night talk show called Vibe. And they had teamed up with the group that I just mentioned, Something for the People, featuring Trina and Tamara. Sadly, Leslie's brother Melvin died of pancreatic cancer on March 31st, 2023, and Leslie died on October 27th, 2025. The next artist is jazz drummer, the late Jack DeJohnette, and he was born in Chicago, Illinois on August 9th, 1942. He was an American jazz drummer, pianist, and composer. He is known for his extensive work as leader and sideman for musicians including Charles Lloyd, Freddie Hubbard, Keith Jarrett, Bill Evans, John Abercrombie, Ralph Toner, Alice Coltrane, Sonny Rollins, Miles Davis, Joe Henderson, Michael Brecker, Pat Mahaney, Herbie Hancock, and John Schofield. Jack DeJohnette was inducted into the Modern Drummer Hall of Fame in 2007. He won 2 Grammy Awards and was nominated for 6 others. He recorded more than 35 albums under his own name and as a band leader. His LPs includes the DeJohnette Complex, Have you heard? Take off your body. Life is round. Runda and Dietia. Fort Yowa. Sorcery. Cosmic Chicken. Gate Rye. Gateway. Gateway 2. New Directions. Special Edition. New Directions in Europe. Tin Can Alley. Inflation Blues. The Jack DeJohnette Piano Album. Zebra. In Our Style. Irresistible Forces. Earthwalk. Audio Visual Scapes, and Parallel Realities. Music for the Fifth World. Extra Special Edition. Dancing with Nature Spirits. Oneness. The Elephant Sleeps but Still Remembers. Music from the Hearts of the Masters. Music in the Key of One. Salvadades. Peacetime. Music We Are. Sound Travels. Made in Chicago. In Movement and Hudson. In 2012, he received a Jazz Masters Award for the National Endowment for the Arts. Jack DeJohnette was married to Deatra Davenport and ended in divorce. He was married to his second wife, Lydia Herman, of 57 years, who acted as his manager. They have two daughters, and Jack DeJohnette died of congestive heart failure in Kingston, New York on October 26, 2025, and he was 83 years old. The next jazz artist I'm about to introduce to you is Dame Cleo Lane. And yes, she is a British singer coming out of the UK, and she was also an actress. She was known for her scat singing. She was the wife of jazz composer and musician Sir John Dankworth, and was the mother of bassist Alec and singer Jacqui Dankworth. She was born as Clementine Diana Bullock on October 28, 1927, in Southall, Middlesex, England. She's the second of three children, Sylvan Alexander, Campbell, and Minnie Blanche Bullock, and was registered under the name Clementine Diana Bullock. Her father was Jamaican and her mother was British English. She was later brought up as Clementine Campbell, but it was not until 1953, when she was 26 years old, applying for a passport going to Germany, and that became Cleo Lane, and she found out that it was her birth name. At the age of 24, she joined John Dankworth's small group called the Johnny Dankworth Seven, where she adopted the name Cleo Lane. In 1958, Cleo Lane and Dankworth were married. On stage, she appeared in the UK in a play called Flesh to a Tiger. Other plays she was in were The Barren One, Yerma, Balmouth, A Time to Laugh, Boots with Strawberry Jam, and the UK version of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Showboat. In the 1960s, Cleo had two major recordings successfully albums or singles in the UK, including You Will Answer to Me, that reached the British top 10 hits charts, and her jazz albums, including Shakespeare and All That Jazz. Both of those albums were well received. Her other albums includes the following: She's the Tops, In Retrospect, Jazz Date with Tubby Hayes, All About Me, Woman to Woman, Facade featuring Annie Ross, If We Lived on the Top of a Mountain, The Unbelievable, Portrait, Feel the Warmth, An Evening with Cleo Lane and the John Dankworth Quartet. I Am a Song, Day by Day, Cleo Lane live at Carnegie Hall, A Beautiful Thing, Sings Perio Lumiere, Cleo Close Up, Spotlight on Cleo Lane, Easy Living, Cleo Lane, Best Friends with John Williams, Born on a Friday, Porgy and Bess with Ray Charles, Cleo at the Wharf Haven Festival, A Lover and His Last with Johnny Dunkworth, Return to Carnegie, Cleo's Greatest Show Hits, Gonna Get Through, Cleo Lane Sings, World Songs, Cleo Lane in Australia with Johnny Dankworth, Cleo's Choice Sometimes When We Touch with James Galway, Cleo Lane in Concert, One More Day, and Smiling Through with Dudley Moore, and Let the Music Take You with John Williams, and That Old Feeling. Also, Cleo at Carnegie, 10th anniversary at the Carnegie. The Unforgettable Cleo Lane, Cleo sings Sondheim. Nothing Without You, featuring Mel Torme on the Town, Blue and Sentimental, Solitude, Quality Time. And yes, she won a Grammy Award for Best Jazz Vocal Performance Female at the 1986 Grammy Awards and received a Lifetime Achievement Award from the U.S. Recording Academy in 1991. On television, she made a guest appearance on The Muppet Show, which was aired in syndication back in 1977. Sadly, Cleo's husband, Johnny Dankworth, died on February 6, 2010. And 15 years later, Cleo Lane died on July 24th, 2025, at the age of 97. Another jazz legend that have passed away was some of my favorites, the late Chuck Mangione. He was born in Rochester, New York, where he grew up. He was a flugelhornist and trumpet player and composer. He was a member of Art Blakey's band in the 1960s and later co led the Jazz Brothers with his brother Gap. He's best remembered for his crossover pop jazz hit Feel So Good from the LP entitled Feel So Good, released on the A&M label back in the fall of 1977. The song was released back in January 1978. It went to number 68 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts and number one on Billboard's Adult Contemporary Singles charts on May 13th, 1978, for 1 week. The album went to number two on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts, and the LP went double platinum and it sold over 2 million copies in print. The song was nominated for a Grammy Award for Record of the Year, but lost to singer Billy Joel at the 1979 21st Annual Grammy Awards. Also, his other LP was called Fun and Games, which was released in the fall of 1979 with a tune called Give It All You Got, released back in January 1980, and which was later used for the 1980 Winter Olympics, aired on ABC in Lake Placid, New York. The song went to number 18 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts in March of 1980, and it also went to number 32 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts and number one on Billboard's Adult Contemporary Singles charts on March 8th, 1980, for 2 weeks. The album went gold and it sold over 500,000 copies in print. Other albums include The Jazz Brothers as the Mangione Brothers, Sextet with Chuck Mangione, Hey Baby as the Jazz Brothers with Chuck Mangione, Spring Fever with Chuck Mangione, Friends and Lovers a Chuck Mangione concert. Together, a Chuck Mangione concert. Alive, the Chuck Mangione Quartet. Land of Make Believe. Chase of the Clouds. Main Squeeze. Children of Sanchez, the motion picture soundtrack. An Evening of Magic. Live at the Hollywood Bowl. Love Notes. 70 Miles Young. Journey to a Rainbow. Disguise. Save Tonight for Me. Eyes of the Veiled Tempress. Live at the Village Gate. The Boys from Rochester. The Hats Back. Together Forever with Steve Gadd. The Feelings Back, and Everything for Love. In addition, Chuck made TV appearances, including Magnum PI on CBS, and also Sharon, Lois, and Brown's Elephant Show, which was aired on CBC, the Canadian Broadcasting Company in Canada. And he had a recurring role on the animated TV series King of the Hill, which was aired on Fox, where he played the role of a celebrity spokesperson for Mega Lomart. Chuck Mangione had retired in 2015 and sold his copyrights to Primary Wave in 2024. Sadly, Chuck's wife, Rosemary, died in 2015. Chuck died in his sleep in Rochester, New York on July 22nd, 2025. He was 84 years old. They leave behind two daughters, Nancy and Diana, and he was a great grandfather. The next artist that just passed away recently was rapper Rob Base. Rob Base was born as Robert Ginyard on May 18th, 1967, in the Bronx, New York. In the fourth grade, he was relocated to the village of Harlem in New York City, where he became a classmate friend to DJ Easy Rock back in the late 70s. He attended Harlem public schools and loved music influenced by rap. He performed in talent shows and as many open mics or hip hop events as possible. Rob Base and DJ Easy Rock was the first single was called DJ Interview, appearing on World to World, which later got them a record deal with Profile Records in 1987. The duo was assisted by a longtime friend, producer David Wen. David produced 3 songs on their debut album and on their 5 sophomore albums. Their first release on the Profile label was called It Takes Two to Make a Thing Go Right. And yes, it used multiple samples from James Brown and Lynn Collins from the 1972 song Think. The song was released back in May 1988, and I heard it on 107.5 WBLS in New York City, and it became a regional hit, and then slowly climbing to Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts at number 36, number 37 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts, and number 3 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts. The song went platinum and it sold over 1 million copies in print. Their follow-up was entitled Get on the Dance Floor, which was being sampled from the Jacksons' hit Shake Your Body Now Down to the Ground. The song went to number 6 on Billboard's Rap Singles charts and number 11 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts and number 1 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts on January 7th, 1989 for 2 weeks. And their third song, Joy and Pain, which was sampled from Maze featuring Frankie Beverly, and Olympic runners, Put Your Music Where Your Mouth Is. In other words, they combined those songs. And yes, the song went to number 58 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts. Number 11 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles Charts, number 9 on Billboard's Dance Singles Charts, and number 5 on Billboard's Rap Singles Charts. Their debut LP, It Takes Two, went to number 31 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 4 on Billboard's R&B Black Albums charts. The album went platinum and it sold over 1 million copies in print. Other albums, including The Incredible Bass, Break Up Dawn, which had went to number 50 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 20 on Billboard's R&B Black Albums charts. The album went gold. Rob Bass' first child was born in 1989 to his then girlfriend, Rhonda Dunbar. They were married from 1986 to 1991. In 1991, Rob Bass met April, and in 1992, they had a son and took guardianship of April's cousin. Rob Bass and April were married and remained married until her death in September of 2013. Rob Bass died from cancer on May 22nd, 2026, at the age of 59. Another artist that we all love is the late Sonny Rollins, Lifetime Grammy Award winner and recipient and Kennedy Center honoree for the class of 2011. Now, Sonny Rollins was born as Walter Theodore Robbins, and he was born in the NYC to parents Walter and Valberg, who were both from the Virgin Islands, the youngest of 3 siblings. And he grew up in central Harlem on Sugar Hill section in the village of Harlem. He grew up in a musical family where his father played the clarinet and his sister played the piano, while his older brother was a violinist. He got his nickname Sonny by his grandmother and was mentioned by pianist Thelonious Monk. He attended the Edward W. Sitt Junior High School and graduated from Benjamin Franklin High School in East Harlem. Sonny Rollins began taking piano lessons at the age of 9, but switched over to the alto saxophone at the age of 11. After being influenced by his idol Coleman Hawkins, which ultimately became his signature instrument. Largely self taught, Rollins played in a band during his high years alongside future jazz legends, including Jackie McLean, Kenny Drew, and Art Taylor. In early 1950, Rollins was arrested for armed robbery and spent 10 months in Rikers Island, and before being released on parole. In 1952, he was rearrested for violating the terms of his parole by using heroin. In 1954, Sonny had a major breakthrough LP called Miles Davis with Sonny Rollins. He recorded 3 compositions, including Oleo, Aragon, and Dolce, with a quintet led by Miles Davis, featuring Horace Silver, Percy Heath, and Kenny Clark. Suddenly, in 1956, another major breakthrough with his widely acclaimed album called Saxophone Collages, which was released on the Prestige label back in April 1957. And the tune, St. Thomas, was a huge success. His follow ups were including You Don't Know What Love Is and Moriat. In 2016, Sonny Rollins' LP, Saxophone Collages, was selected for preservation in the National Recording Registry by the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., and it being known for being culturally, historically, and significant. Other LPs from Sonny Rollins, including the following: Sonny Rollins with the Modern Jazz Quartet, Moving Out, Work Time, Sonny Rollins Plus Four, Tenor Madness, Rollin Plays for Bird, Tour de Force, Sonny Boy, Sonny Rollins Volume 1, Way Out West, Sonny Rollins Volume 2, The Sound of Sonny, Nukes Time, Freedom Suite, Sonny Rollins and the Big Brass, Sonny Rollins and the Contemporary Leaders, The Bridge, What's New, Sonny Meets Hawk, Now's the Time, The Standard Sonny Rollins, Sonny Rollins on Impulse, Alfie, East Broadway Rundown, Next Album, Horn Culture, Nucleus, The Way I Feel, Easy Living, Don't Ask, Love at First Sight, No Problem, Real Life, The Solo Album, Sunny Days, Starry Nights, Dancing in the Dark, Old Flames, Falling in Love with Jazz, Here's to the People, G-Man, Sonny Rollins Plus 3, Global Warming, This Is What I Do, Without a Song, the 9/11 Concert, and Sonny. In 2004, he received a Grammy Award for Lifetime Achievement and a Kennedy Center honoree for the class of 2011. In 1977, he appeared in a TV commercial for Pioneer Home Stereo Electronics. Sonny Rollins was married twice. He was first married to Dawn Finnery in 1957. He met his next wife, Lucille Pearson, and they were married in 1965. They remained together until she died in 2004. Sonny lived near the World Trade Center. During the 9/11 attacks, they moved to Woodstock in 2013, and he took his saxophone with him. Sonny died on May 25th, 2026, from a pulmonary fibrosis. He was 95 years old. Another jazz composer that we all love was Lalo Schifrin. Lalo was born as Claudio Lalo Schifrin. He was born in Buenos Aires, Argentina, in South America on June 21st, 1932, to parents. His dad was Jewish and his mom was Catholic, exposing Lalo early to both things of music, church, and jazz. The nickname Lalo was the normal Argentine diminutive for his second name, Claudio. When he came to the U.S., he became a citizen and changed the name to Lalo, legally simplified to his contracts. Although Lalo studied sociology and law at the University of Buenos Aires, he became more interested in music. At the age of 20, he successfully applied for a scholarship to the Conservatoire de Paris, where he studied in 1952. He also studied African drumming. At night, he played jazz in Paris clubs. After returning to Argentina in his 20s, Lalo formed a big jazz band, and at the age of 16, he played and became part of a popular weekly variety show in Buenos Aires TV. He also began accepting film and television and radio assignments. In 1956, he met Dizzy Gillespie and offered to write an extended work for Dizzy's big band. Schifrin completed the work, and the LP was called Gillespieana in 1958, and it was recorded in 1960. In 1963, MGM, which had Schifrin under contract, and offered as the composer for his first Hollywood film assignment with the African adventure movie called Rhino. Lalo has gotten the call and moved to Los Angeles and became a U.S. citizen in 1969. Lalo will be best remembered for composing the theme music for the TV series Mission Impossible, which was aired on CBS in 1966. A year later, he did the theme for the TV detective drama show Mannix, also aired on CBS and was aired in 1967. Also in 1967, he did the music score for the movie Cool Hand Luke, released by Warner Brothers, which starred the late Paul Newman. And in the scene where Luke and some of the other prisoners, which had George Kennedy and J.D. Cannon, they were doing that scene called the tour sequence. And in case you may not know, that music, dun 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 dun. This is Eyewitness News with Roger Grimsby, Bill Butel, plus Bruce King, Storm Field, and the Eyewitness News team. Now, as I said, that scene where they were digging up dirt. Now, Lalo Schifrin had that theme called the Tour Sequence Theme, which later became the theme for ABC 7's Eyewitness News in the NYC and other ABC TV stations and affiliates, as well as Nine News in Australia, and it was also used in the 1990s. In 1968, he did the jazzy music score for the movie Bullet from Warner Brothers, which starred the late Steve McQueen. And also in 1968, he did the music score for the MGM movie called Sol Madrid, which starred the late David McCallum, the late Stella Stevens, the late Telly Savalas, and the late Rip Torn, and the late Pat Hingle. And on the same year, he teamed up with another music score called Coogan's Bluff, and that was from Universal Pictures, and it starred Mr. Clint Eastwood. And yes, both Clint Eastwood and Lalo Schifrin began having a long-term association as they also teamed up with director Don Siegel. Now, Lalo had did some motion picture movie scores for Clint Eastwood, including the Dirty Harry sequels. And yes, he did the score for the 1971 movie called The Beguiled from Universal Pictures and the 1972 movie Joe Kidd, also from Universal Pictures. He also did some movie scores for the movies, including Where Angels Go, Trouble Follows from Columbia Pictures that starred Rosalind Russell. Other movies that he did, including Che, Kelly's Heroes, THX 1138, Enter the Dragon, The Eagle Has Landed, Voyage of the Damned, Roller Coaster, The Amityville Horror and its sequel, The Competition, The Sting 2, Black Moon Rising, Tango, After the Sunset, Bringing Down the House, which starred Steve Martin and Eugene Levy, Gene Smart, Queen Latifah, Steve Harris, and the late Betty White. And yes, Rush Hour and its sequels that starred comedian Chris Tucker and Jackie Chan, and also the movie Money Talks, which that too starred Chris Tucker along with an all-star cast that had Charlie Sheen, Heather Locklear, Paul Sorvino, Elise Neal, and Veronica Cartwright. On television, he did TV themes for these TV shows, including The Man from Uncle that aired on NBC, The Cat also aired on NBC, Medical Center aired on CBS, the TV version of The Planet of the Apes aired on CBS, Starsky and Hutch aired on ABC, Most Wanted also aired on ABC, Chicago Story on NBC, Glitter on ABC, and Sparky Magic Pin Show. That was aired in syndication. Lalo Schifrin has won 4 Grammy Awards and 1 Latin Grammy Award, and he has a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. In 2018, Clint Eastwood presented Lalo with an Academy Honorary Award in recognition of his unique musical style in film score. Schifrin was married to Sylvia Shawn in Buenos Aires in 1958. They had 2 children, and the marriage ended in divorce. He later married Donna Cockrell in 1971, and they had a son. His second wife managed his business and record label. In 2008, Lalo wrote his autobiography, Mission Impossible: My Life in Music. Lalo Schifrin died from pneumonia at an LA hospital on June 26, 2025, at the age of 93, just 5 days after he celebrated his birthday. The next musician is Steve the Colonel Cropper. Yes, the one and only Steve the Colonel Cropper. He was born in Dora, Missouri on October 21st, 1941. And yes, he was a guitarist. Yup, Steve the Colonel Cropper. When you hear him on Booker T and the MG's track called Green Onions, that's Steve the Colonel Cropper. And yes, as I mentioned, he was a guitarist and was part of the Stax Records house band Booker T and the MGs, which backed artists such as Otis Redding, Wilson Pickett, Sam and Dave, Carla Thomas and her dad Rufus Thomas, and Johnny Taylor. He was also a songwriter and producer for those artists that I just mentioned. He was later a member of the Blues Brothers Band. Steve and his parents were moved to Memphis, Tennessee at the age of 9. There he was exposed to black gospel music, which he had an impact on him. He attended Messick High School. Steve got his first guitar at the age of 14 and admired guitarists Tal Farlow, Chuck Berry, Jimmy Reed, Chet Atkins, Lowman Pauling of the Five Royals, Earl Cate of the Cate Brothers Band, and Billy Butler of the Bill Doggett Band. Among others, Steve and guitarist Charlie Freeman formed their band called the Royal Spades, who eventually became the Marquis. The name referred to the marquee outside of Stax Studios, known as Satellite Records. Eventually, the Marquis began playing on sessions and had a hit single of their own, which called Late Night, which was released back in 1961. Besides being impressed with the young guitarist playing, Stax Records president Jim Stewart saw professionalism and maturity began with Steve Cropper during those years. When American Records founder Chips Monin left Stax, Steve became the company's A&R man. He became a founding member of the Stax house band Booker T and the MGs, with Booker T on the lead organ, Donald Duck Dunn on bass, Louis Stebbins, who later replaced by Donald Duck Dunn on the bass, and drummer the late Al Jackson Jr. As a house guitarist, he played on many recordings with Otis Redding and Sam and Dave. Among with the influential work with Booker T and the MGs, Steve co-wrote Knock on Wood with Eddie Floyd, In the Midnight Hour with Wilson Pickett, and Sitting on the Dock of the Bay with Otis Redding, which went to #1 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts on March 16th, 1968 for 4 weeks, and #1 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts on March 16th, 1968 for 3 weeks. It won him a Grammy Award for Best R&B Song at the 1968 10th Annual Grammy Awards. When Steve left Stax in 1970, he set up TMI Studios with Jerry Williams and Ronnie Stutz. He worked with many musicians, including Ringo Starr, Rod Stewart, and John Prine and Jeff Beck. In 1978, Steve the Colonel Cropper and Donald Duck Dunn became members of Leon Helms' RCO All Stars. And they went to do some music stuff in the Blues Brothers band. And they met Willie Hall, and it led to two album appearances also in the movie The Blues Brothers and The Blues Brothers 2000, both soundtrack albums, including Green Onions, Soul Dressing, and Now. In the Christmas spirit, Hip Hugger, Doing Our Own Thing, Soul Limbo, Uptight, The Booker T Set, McLemore Avenue, Melting Pot, Universal Avenue, and The Way It Should Be. Now, here's an FYI for you all, ladies and gentlemen. In that album, Melting Pot, which had the song Melting Pot, was later used on the WOR TV Channel 9, now WWOR TV My 9, Public Affairs Sunday morning program entitled Right Now. It aired Sunday mornings at 9:30 a.m. That came on right after Oral Roberts and right before the Sunday Mass. And the public affairs program was aired from the fall of 1971 to the summer of 1974. In 1992, Booker T and the MGs with Steve Cropper were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Steve Cropper died on December 3rd, 2025 in Nashville, Tennessee at the age of 84. A cause of death was not known. A few days before that, he was at a rehab center in Nashville, Tennessee, recovering from a recent fall. So rest in peace to Steve the Colonel Cropper. Another singer that had passed away had some other things on the side, and his name was Lamont McLemore. And his real name was Herman Lamont McLemore, and was born on September 17th, 1935 in St. Louis, Missouri. He was the founding member of the Fifth Dimension, where he started his music career in Los Angeles, California. It consists of the group, which includes the Versatiles, which included his friends, the late Ron Townsend and Billy Davis Jr. After photographing them in the Miss Bronze California beauty pageant, he asked Florence LaRue and Marilyn McCoo to join the group. Encouraged by his recording company Soul City Records, the group changed their name to the Fifth Dimension. McLemore co-wrote two songs for the Fifth Dimension, which includes A Love Like Ours and The Singer. The song Up and Away won the group's 5 Grammy Awards, which includes Record of the Year, Song of the Year, Best Pop Performance by Duo or Group, and Best Performance by Vocal Group. And that was at Best Performance by Chorus and Best Contemporary Songs at the 1968 10th Annual Grammy Awards. While he's not performing with the Fifth Dimension, he is also a photographer for Ebony and Jet magazine, and he is best known for doing the Black Beauties. So when you go to the middle page of Jet magazine, you'll see some of all of the Black Beauties of the week, and he has been doing it for over 40 years. Now, before Ebony and Jet, he co-founded Hallmark Graphics, with Cliff Hall and worked there as a photographer beginning in 1958. McLemore was the first African American photographer hired by Harper's Bazaar magazine and was a photographer for Stevie Wonder's first album cover. He worked as a photographer for Playboy magazine and People magazine. McLemore was married to Lisa Harvey and had a daughter named Sierra. In 2014, he wrote and published his autobiography with Robin Allen Arno. And from the Hobo Flats to the Fifth Dimension, a life fulfilled in baseball, photography, and music. McLemore married Miko Tone in 1995. He had two children, Sierra and Duran Lamont. McLemore died at his home in Las Vegas, Nevada on February 3rd, 2026, at the age of 90 after suffering a stroke. The next artist that we didn't know and was unknown to us, her name is Miss Judy Cheeks. Now, Judy Cheeks was born in Miami, Florida on February 13th, 1954. She was the daughter of gospel singer the Reverend Julius Cheeks. She was a soul and R&B singer before releasing dance-oriented music in the 1990s. Cheeks will be best remembered as a background vocalist. She performed with Ike and Tina Turner, who was an Ikette. Judy wrote for Berry Gordy Jr.'s publishing firm, Jobet Music, that's Motown Records, and she did some songs for the Jackson 5, which had recorded one of her songs called We're Gonna Change Our Style. She did a lot of session work for several major artists while sharpening her songwriting skills. Judy appears as a background vocalist for Thelma Houston and Jerry Butler's album Just Thelma and Jerry. Also, she was a background vocalist for Donna Summer's LP entitled Once Upon a Time, Amanda Lear's LP Never Trust the Pretty Face, and Stevie Wonder's soundtrack album The Woman in Red. Also, she was a vocalist for Boney M's album 10,000 Light Years. And in 1984, Alphabet's Afternoons in Utopia in 1986. Judy co-wrote and produced her solo album entitled No Oust, released on the Polydor label back in 1987. Other LPs, which includes Judy Cheeks, Please Give Me This, Mellow Lovin', Disco Cheeks, Hard on the Heels of Love, Respect, True Love is Free, Danger Zone, A Deeper Zone, and Love Dancing. Judy Cheeks died on November 26, 2025, at the age of 71. Now, this next artist, whoo, let me tell you, this is going to be a long one. I promise you this. Mr. Michael Eugene Archer, better known as D'Angelo, was born on February 11th, 1974, in Richmond, Virginia. He was widely regarded as a pioneer of the neo soul movement. Now, before he gained attention, he co-wrote and co-produced the single You Will Know as the 1994 single, which was performed by Black Men United, which had Gerald Levert, El DeBarge, Stokey from Mint Condition, and other male performers. And this was from the movie Jason's Lyric, which was released back in 1994 with an all-star cast that featured Alan Payne, Jada Pinkett, Bokeem Woodbine, Forrest Whitaker, Eddie Griffin, Lisa Nicole Carson, and Tretch from Naughty by Nature. The proceeds from that song went to the United Negro College Fund. In 1995, he made his national singing debut with his LP called Brown Sugar, released on the EMI label. The album was released on July 3rd, 1995. The single Brown Sugar was released on June 13th, 1995. The song went to number 27 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 5 on Billboard's R&B and Hip Hop Singles charts, number 14 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts, and number 26 on Billboard's R&B Airplay Singles charts. His follow-up was the remake of Smokey Robinson's Cruisin'. It went to number 53 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 10 on Billboard's R&B and Hip Hop Singles charts, number 25 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts, and number 24 on Billboard's R&B Airplay Singles charts. That was released on December 5th, 1995. His next tune was called Lady, released on March 5th, 1996. The song went to number 10 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 2 on Billboard's R&B and Hip Hop Singles charts, and number 7 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts, and number 10 on Billboard's R&B Airplay Singles charts. His last song was called Me and Those Dreaming Eyes of Mine. It went to number 74 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 25 on Billboard's R&B and Hip Hop Singles charts, number 2 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts. His debut LP went to number 22 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 4 on R&B's R&B and Hip Hop Albums charts. The album went platinum and it sold over 1 million copies in print. His next LP was called Live at the Jazz Cafe, and it was released on June 30th, 1998, and it went to number 49 on Billboard's R&B Hip Hop Albums charts. But his next one, his next LP, a masterpiece. The name of the album was called Voodoo, and it was a smash. The LP was released on January 25th, 2000. His single was called Untitled How Does It Feel? It was released on January 10th, 2000. The song went to number 25 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, and it went to both number 2 on R&B and Hip Hop Singles charts and the Adult R&B Singles charts. As for the music video, which was produced and directed by Paul Hunter in New York City, and it was aired on BET and MTV. Despite controversy, the music video was largely divided along sexual lines as female viewers generally expressed favorite to the video. Now, if you didn't get a chance to see that music video, make sure you check it out on YouTube. You see them all naked. All right? You check it out for yourself. The song won a Grammy Award for Best R&B Performance Vocal Male at the 2001 43rd Annual Grammy Awards. Now, here's an FYI for you all, ladies and gentlemen. The song was originally intended as a tribute to Prince. The next song was called Send It On, and it was released on March 25th, 2000. The song went to number 20 on Billboard's Bubbling Under Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 33 on Billboard's R&B Hip Hop Singles charts. And the next song was the remake of Roberta Flack's Feel Like Making Love. The song was released on April 8th, 2000, and it went to number 9 on Billboard's Bubbling Under R&B Hip Hop Singles charts. The LP went to number 1 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and on Billboard's R&B Hip Hop Albums charts. The album went platinum and it sold over 1 million copies in print. Other LPs, including Voodoo VJ Soul Essentials, The Best So Far, and Black Messiah. D'Angelo was never married. In the 1990s, he dated the late neo soul singer Angie Stone. She was his muse for his Brown Sugar LP, and he helped her produce her debut LP, Black Diamond, which was released in the fall of 1999. They both had a son together, Michael Archer Jr., their son. He also had 2 other children together, Imani Archer and a son. In the early 2000s, D'Angelo struggled with depression as well as drug and alcohol addiction. In 2005, he was arrested for DUI charge and also for possession of cocaine and marijuana. Now, after being sentenced on charges in September of 2005, he was involved in a car crash that was rumored to have him injured. D'Angelo died from pancreatic cancer in New York City, and he died on October 14th, 2025, at the age of 51. Next artist that we're about to do is Blondie. Now that spells Blondy, not the Blondie that we know back then, or the group Blondie, which was Deborah Harry. We're talking about the other Blondie. That's Blondy. Her real name was Gwendolyn Chisholm, and she was born in Columbia, South Carolina, and grew up in the Saxon Homes projects, where she and Angela, that's Angie Stone, and Cheryl the Pearl Cook, they were childhood friends. Now, they were founders of the group called The Sequence. That's right, The Sequence. Now, I didn't know that Angie Stone can rap and sing, but they were known for that. Now, The Sequence were the first female hip hop trio on the Sugar Hill label with the song called Funk You Up, which was released back in 1979, and it was added to their debut LP called Sugar Hill Presents The Sequence. Sadly, Gwendolyn Yvonne Chisholm died in Atlanta, Georgia on April 6, 2026. She was 66 years old. The next one of the hip hop pioneers, and his name is Afrika Bambaataa. Afrika Bambaataa was born as Lance Taylor on April 7th, 1957, in the Bronx, New York, to Jamaican and Barbadian immigrants, and he grew up in the Bronx River Projects with an activist mother and uncle. As a child, he was exposed to the Black liberation movement and witnessed debates between his mother and uncle regarding to the ideologies in the movement. Africa was a member of the Black Spades. It became the biggest gang in the city terms of both membership and turf. After he won an essay contest that earned him a trip to Africa, his worldview had shifted. He had the movie called Zulu and was impressed with the solidarity exhibit by the Zulu in that film. During his trip to Africa, The communities he visited inspired him to circulate one in his neighborhood. That's when he changed his name to Africa Bambara Asim and putting the name of the Zulu chief Bambara, and yes, who led an armed rebellion against unfair economic practices in the early 20th century South Africa. He told people that his name was Zulu for an effective leader. Bambara formed the Bronx River Organization as an alternative to the Black Spades. Africa Bambara began hosting block parties throughout the South Bronx, including at the Bronx River Organization. He engaged primarily as a hip hop artist. Much of his early fan base was centered on the hip hop movement as he established numerous rap groups, including the Jazzy Five and the Soul Sonic Force, which he featured many artists who had overlapped with the Universal Zulu Nation. In 1982, he released his breakthrough electro funk track in the form of Planet Rock, which featured Bambara, producer Arthur Baker, and the Soul Sonic Force. The song was released back in May of 1982 and it went to number 48 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts, number 4 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts, and number 3 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts. The song was sampled from Kraftwerk's hit Trans Europe Express, as well as electronic drum patterns. He also credited the pioneering Japanese electro pop group, the Yellow Magic Orchestra, whose work he sampled as an inspiration. His next song was called Looking for the Perfect Beat, and it went to number 36 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts and number 18 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts. In 1983, his song was entitled Renegades of Funk, and that went to number 26 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts. In 1984, his song Unity with special guest Mr. James Brown went to number 87 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts. In 1986, Africa Bambaataa theme went to number 70 on Billboard's R&B Black Singles charts and number 25 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts. And in 1990, Just Get Up and Dance went to number 4 on Billboard's Dance Singles charts. In 1985, he participated in the Sun City LP, which was recorded by Artists United Against Apartheid, and he had appeared in the music video as well. Africa Bambaataa died of prostate cancer in Pennsylvania on April 9th, 2026. He was 68 years old. The next artist that we all love was the late Clarence Carter. Clarence Carter was born blind in Montgomery, Alabama on January 14th, 1936. Carter attended the Alabama School for the Blind in Talladega, Alabama, and Alabama State University in Montgomery, graduating in August 1960 with a Bachelor of Science degree in music. In 1967, he recorded Tell Daddy. The song went to number 35 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts, followed by Thread the Needle, and it went to number 98 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 38 on Billboard's Soul Singles charts. At the end of 1967, Clarence Carter signed with Atlantic Records with his debut LP entitled This Is Clarence Carter, with his breakout hit called Slip Away. The song went to number 6 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles charts and number 2 on Billboard's Soul Singles Charts. The song went gold and it sold over 1,000 copies in print, and it was released in April 1968. His follow up was called Too Weak to Fight, and it released back in the summer of 1968. The song went to number 13 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles Charts and number 3 on Billboard's Soul Singles Charts. The song also went gold and it sold over 1,000 copies in print. On November 5th, 1968, he had a Christmas song called Backdoor Santa. The song went to number 4 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles Charts, and the song was later resampled by Run DMC's 1986 hit Christmas in Hollis. There were no hits back in 1969 until 1970. Clarence Carter came back with another hit called Patches, and that was from the LP entitled Patches on the Atlantic label. The song was released back in July 1970, and it went to number 4 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles Charts and number 2 on Billboard's Soul Singles Charts. The song went gold, and it sold over 1,000 copies in print. The album Patches went to number 44 on Billboard's Top 200 Albums charts and number 18 on Billboard's Soul Albums charts. The song Patches was written by Run Dunbar and General Johnson from Chairman of the Board. And yes, the song won a Grammy Award for Best R&B Song at the 1971 13th Annual Grammy Awards. In 1973, Clarence did a remake of the Dominoes' 60-Minute Man. That went to number 65 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles Charts and number 17 on Billboard's Soul Singles Charts, followed by the remake of Ernie K-Doe's Mother-in-Law. That went to number 80 on Billboard's Hot 100 Pop Singles Charts and number 24 on Billboard's Soul Singles Charts. There were no hits in the late 70s nor the early 80s. Until 1986, he came back with a new hit called Strokin'. And that was on an independent label called Ichiban Records. Now, it wasn't a hit in the United States, but it went to number 24 on Billboard's Australian pop charts. And the song was well requested at some airplay on some of the black radio stations in the South. And he performed that song on a 2002 special called Old School Party, which was aired on PBS. Clarence Carter was once married to singer Candy Staton. That's right, Candy Staton, the same Candy Staton who's well known for her songs, including Young Hearts Run Free. That Candy Staton. And they had a son, Clarence Carter Jr. They were divorced in 1973. In 1981, he got married to a second wife, and they had a son named Herbert Dion Wilkinson. Clarence Carter died at a hospice facility in Atlanta, Georgia, from prostate cancer, and he died on May 13th, 2026, at the age of 90. Another artist representing Latin music was the late Willie Colon. He was born on April 28th, 1950, in the Bronx, New York, to Puerto Rican parents. He was a musician, producer, arranger, singer, and activist. He picked up the trombone at an earlier age after he played the trumpet from a young age. Beyond the trombone, he was also a director and composer, combining elements of jazz, rock, and salsa hits. His work incorporates the rhythms and traditional music from African descendants in Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and Brazil, representing a mostly one way flow from Puerto Rico to the New York based diaspora. At the age of 15, he was signed with Fania Records, and at the age of 17, he recorded his first album, which ultimately sold more than 300,000 copies in print. The main record producer at Fania at the time, Johnny Pacheco, recommended Hector Lavoe to him. He went on to have many successful collaborations with other salsa musicians and singers, such as Ishmael Miranda, Celia Cruz, Soledad Bravo, and singer and songwriter Ruben Blades. While he is not performing, he is also a civil rights activist from the age of 16. He served as a member of the Latino Commission on AIDS, president of the Arthur Schomburg Coalition for a Better New York, and member of the board of directors at the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute. In 1995, Colon became the first person of color to serve on the American Society of Composers and Authors and Publishers, that's known as ASCAP, National Board, replacing Stephen Sondheim, and was a member of the ASCAP Foundation. His other activities, including campaigning, and later became a special assistant and spokesperson for New York City Mayor David Dinkins. On April 25th, 2010, he appeared on the National Mall for Earth Day climate rally along with Sting, John Legend, The Roots, Jimmy Cliff, Passion Pit, Bob Weir, Joss Stone, Robert Randolph, Patrick Stump, Mavis Staples, Booker T, Honor Society, and Taro Rodriguez Seeger. He acted in films including Vigilante, The Last Fight, and It Could Happen to You. On television, he appeared on an episode of Miami Vice, Season 3, aired on NBC. His albums includes El Malo, The Hustler, Guesiano, Cosa Nuestra, Navidendo, La Gran Fuga, El Juicido, Crime Pays, La Mato, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, 49 Minutes, Stramba, Celia and Willie, Fantasmas, The Last Fight, Vigilante, The Winners, Top Secrets, The Best, Willie Colon and Tito Puente, The Best Part 2, American Latino, El Rey de Trombone, Mi Gran Amor, La Experiencia, The Player, Historia de la Salsa, and Sesiones, Banya. On May 26, 2014, after graduating from Westchester County Police Academy, Colon was sworn in as a deputy sheriff for the Department of Public Safety. On December 12, 2017, he became a deputy lieutenant. On April 20th, 2021, Willie and his wife Julia were in a serious accident while driving a recreational vehicle throughout the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Willie suffered a head injury and was rushed to a hospital in Virginia. Willie Colon died at New York Presbyterian Westchester Hospital in Bronxville, New York, from a lung disease. He was 75 years old. Another artist representing the Latino community, and her name is Rebecca Del Rio. She was a singer, songwriter, and actress. She was born in Chula Fiesta, California. She sings genres of music, which includes soft rock, easy listening, and Latin jazz. She was born as Rebecca Coronado on July 10th, 1967, and begun using the surname Del Rio, and she started singing professionally. She moved to Los Angeles, California to develop her career after the success of her 1989 hit El Llorando, which is the Spanish version of Roy Orbison's Crying. She moved to Nashville, Tennessee in 1994. There, she was signed to Irving Azoff's Giant Records. She recorded her first debut album entitled Nobody's Angel, which was released back in 1994. Her vocals can be heard on numerous soundtracks, including Sin City, Streets of Legend, Man on Fire, and Mia Sara. In 2001, she made her acting debut in a cameo appearance in a movie called Mulholland Drive, which stars Naomi Watts and Laura Elena Herring. In 2006, she was in a movie called Southland Tales, which she was singing the Star Spangled Banner or the national anthem. On television, she appeared on an episode of Twin Peaks The Return, which was aired on Showtime, and she performed No Stars featuring Moby in that episode. Other albums from Rebecca, which includes Mulholland Drive, the soundtrack album, All My Life, Vida Di Mida, Southland Tales soundtrack, Love Hurts, Love Heals, and Wicked Game. Rebecca Del Rio had a son, Philip C. D. Mars, in 1986. He died in 2009 at the age of 23. Rebecca's last appearance was to the live charity event Mulholland Drive screening at the Philosophical Research Society in Los Angeles, California. Rebecca Del Rio died at her home on June 23rd, 2025. The cause was due to morphine and codeine effects. She had surgery for a brain tumor and had been diagnosed with cancer. She was 57 years old. And as we get to the final one, yes, Mr. Jimmy Cliff. Yes, indeed, Jimmy Cliff. Jimmy Cliff was born as James Chambers on July 30th, 1944, in St. James, colony of Jamaica, West Indies. He was considered to be one of Jamaica's most celebrated musicians and was credited with helping to popularize reggae music internationally. His genres of music was include ska, rocksteady, reggae, and soul. He began writing songs while still in primary school in St. James, listening to a neighbor's sound system, the Big Hoofer speaker sound system. When he was 14 years old, he adopted the stage name Jimmy Cliff. His local hit singles included Kings of Kings, Dearest Beverly, Miss Jamaica, and Pride of Passion. He was signed to Island Records and was moved to the UK. His career took off in the late 1960s, and his international debut album, entitled Hard Road to Travel, which was released in 1967, which includes the song Waterfall, became a hit in Brazil. His follow up was entitled Wonderful World, Beautiful People, and Vietnam, which were released in 1970. His next song was entitled Many Rivers to Cross. is a song about his struggles with the music industry and was released in 1969. In 1972, he made his motion picture debut entitled The Harder They Come. The soundtrack album sold well around the world, and yes, bringing reggae music to an international and once for the first time. In 1976, Jimmy Cliff sang The Harder They Come and Many Rivers to Cross on season 1 of episode 12 of NBC's Saturday Night Live, and the guest host was Dick Cavett. After a series of albums, he took a short break. In the 1980s, he made a comeback with a hit called Reggae Night. In 1983, while at the same time he was on CBS Records, where his follow-up album, Cliffhanger, won a Grammy Award for Best Reggae Album. It was his last major success in the U.S. until 1993. In 1985, he participated on the LP Sun City, recorded by Artists United Against Apartheid, to express opposition to the South African policies of apartheid. In 1986, he was in a movie called Club Paradise, starring Robin Williams, Twiggy, Peter O'Toole, and Joanna Cassidy. He was also on the Club Paradise soundtrack with singer Elvis Costello with their hit called 7-Day Weekend. And on the same year, he was the opener for Steve Winwood. In 1990, he appeared in a movie called Mark for Death that starred Steven Seagal, and he performed a song called John Crow. In 1993, he did the cover version of Johnny Nash's I Can See Clearly Now from the 1993 Cool Running soundtrack LP. In 1995, he collaborated with Lebo M with the song Hakuna Matata. I got that right. From the Lion King soundtrack. In September 2009, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Jimmy Cliff was the second Jamaican artist to be inducted. The first one was the late Bob Marley. Cliff was married and he had several children. One was in a relationship with British film director Bluzette Abrams and had one daughter named Odessa Chambers. The second marriage was to Latifah Chambers, and they had a daughter named Lil T, and they had a son, Akon. In 1992, he was in a relationship with Sonia Gomez and had a daughter, Nabia B. On November 24th, 2025, Jimmy Cliff died from pneumonia after being hospitalized following a seizure, and he was 81 years old. So there you have it, folks. Part 1 of Tributes, honoring our singers and musicians that have passed away during the 2025-2026 season. And there we just concluded part 1 of a 3-part season finale of the Black Soul Music Experience. This is my first time doing a season finale on video. At first, I was going to do it audio, but then until the last minute, I decided to do it video. So again, thank you all for tuning in to the Black Soul Music Experience podcast for season number 5. But we're not finished yet, ladies and gentlemen. We got part 2 coming up on the same week. So make sure you tune in to the Black Soul Music Experience podcast, where I continue with part 2 of Tributes, honoring our favorite musicians that have passed away during the 2025-26 season. Now, ladies and gentlemen, If you want to know more about my podcast, please subscribe to my website, the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Look for me on these 5 platforms. I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Pocket Cast. And the link is riverside.fm/studio/Samuel-Wilson Jr.'s. Don't forget to add the S at the end, -studio. And I will be posting this episode on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. And if you have a hard time getting on to riverside.fm, then please become a member and subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast 6. If you have a computer, please put in your email address and your password. And please go to the Patreon homepage where you see all of the shows done by different creators. And make sure you go to the search box and type in the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast 6, where you can check out all of my audio and video podcast episodes and video podcast clips that you may have missed. And if you have a hard time getting on the Patreon, then I will be posting this episode. And make sure you go to my YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/the Black Soul Music Experience. If you like this episode, if you love my podcast, please subscribe, please support, please give me a thumbs up, please leave a comment, and please pass it on. And don't forget, folks, I'll be back with part 2 of Tributes. Thank you for joining me as I close out this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience. Well, that's about it for this edition of the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. I'm Sam Wilson Jr. Thank you for joining me, and please tune in next week for an all-new episode. The Black Soul Music Experience Podcast is sponsored by the support of listeners and viewers like you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. Look for my podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and Pocket Cast. And don't forget the link. The link is riverside.fm/studio/Samuel-Wilson Jr.'s -studio. And don't forget to check out my audio and video podcast episodes by becoming a member and subscribe to patreon.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. And please check out my video podcast episodes by subscribing to youtube.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. And please leave your comments, feedbacks, and replies by going to my Facebook homepage. Go to facebook.com/the Black Soul Music Experience Podcast. You can also tweet me on X, aka Twitter, at Sam Wilson Jr. 66, and follow me on Instagram at SAMM.Y2980. As always, partying, remember this: reach for the top and your dreams will come true, and it can happen to you. From all of us, take care. God bless. Thanks for listening. Have a good week, and please be safe.